Today's video is going to be all about connecting rooms together. So in the previous video, we created a room class, which has a name and a description, and we created a room tester class, which allowed us to test that name and that description. Today, we're going to work on being able to connect those rooms together using this Arraylist connected rooms. So there's a couple of things we need to be able to do in order to connect our rooms together. One of the things we need to do is be able to add items to our connected rooms list. So we're going to go ahead and write a function that will allow us to do that. So because we're going to be adding rooms from another class, we're going to go to public. It doesn't need to return anything, so I'm going to say public void. And I'm just going to call it add connected room. I like to keep the names nice and simple. It's going to need to be past the room that will be connected. I'm going to call that connected room. And inside this function, all I'm going to do is take the connected rooms array list and add that connected room. So using the .add function, we're able to add that to the array list. Now, because an array list is a dynamic data structure, we haven't predetermined the size, and we can keep adding items to it, and it will just grow to fit those items. So in this particular case, we now have an add connected room to the array list, which is useful if we go to our room tester class. We can create a second room. We'll just keep it simple and call it room 2. Use the constructor to generate an actual copy of that room. We'll call this one the study. Oh, sorry, we already have a room 2. IntelliJ is warning us, so we'll do room 3. And we'll make this one maybe the kitchen or the ballroom. Let's do ballroom. So I now have 3 rooms. I have room 2, and I have room 3. What I should be able to do is on room, call the add connected room function and pass it room 2. And then I should be able to add connected rooms and pass it room 3. The only problem now is there's not really a way to test that because I have no way of accessing the data in this particular array list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some sort of function to add that, to access that data. In fact, I know in my game quite often I'm going to want to print out the connected room so the user can see what kind of exits are near it. So I'm going to write a print connected rooms function. So public, this one's going to just straight up print. It's not going to return the string or anything. So public void print connected rooms. And we're just going to create a simple for loop to loop through that array list. So it's going to loop for int index equal to 0. So starting at the 0 index, we're going to say as long as the index is less than the size of that array list. Remember, array lists use the .size function, not the .length function. Index plus plus, so we're going to increment each time. And then we're just going to say system.out.println. And on each line, I'm going to print one of the connected rooms. So in this case, I'm going to do connected rooms dot get at index. And that's all that function's going to do. So now if after this I call room dot print connected rooms, it should print out that the study and the ballroom are both connected to the library. Now, if we were going to have rooms connected in multiple directions, because each room keeps track of where you can go from there, but it doesn't necessarily keep track of how to get back. So if we're going to add the ballroom and the study to the library, but we also want to be able to, once we go to the library, once we go to the study, come back to the library, we are going to need to go ahead and add them in the other direction. So we have our test. It looks like it's mostly working, except we're getting these weird, crazy numbers. So those weird, crazy numbers are addresses, and the reason they're addresses is because our array list contains objects. It contains room objects. So really, it's storing pointers to a room object, and we're just printing that pointer to a room object. So what we need to do is we need to convert that to a string that will allow us to print it, or we just need to get the name of the room in this case. So what I could do is get the room pointer and then say on that room pointer, call the getName function, which would work. If I run this, it will work, or it should work. But now that might be a little bit confusing to you. So I'm going to take this single line here and pull it apart into a couple different lines. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a room object. So we'll just call it R. We're going to set it equal to connected rooms dot get at index. So all that's going to do is get the room at the current index. Then we're going to call string, n is going to just on room R get the name. So now we've created a room that gets the room from the connected room list. We've created a string n that gets the name, and then all we have to do is print n. So that's exactly the same functionality of the code, but it's just broken up into a few more steps to make things a little bit less confusing, and you'll see that it's still printing study and ballroom. If we wanted to get fancy and maybe do like expect them to select an option or list numbers with the room, what we could do is just go ahead and add our index to our string, maybe with a little bit of punctuation. So what you'll see happens now is we'll get the index dot whatever the room is. So if we're computer scientists, we start counting at 0. Study is the 0th room connected, and ballroom is the first. If we want to not be so computer science-y, what we might do is go and make the value of index incremented. So now we have study 1 and ballroom, or number 2 ballroom, which works perfectly. So we can go ahead to room tester and we can test a little bit of different configurations. We could, for example, do room 2 dot print connected rooms, room 3 dot print connected rooms. Note, those will both not print anything because we haven't yet added any rooms to them. So we'll say run that, same result. Then we can do room 2 dot add connected rooms, and we will add to room 2 room, which was our library. And then we can do the same thing, print all the 3 connected rooms. Now my test is starting to get a little bit hard to read here. So I'm going to go ahead and add some notes in. I'm going to print the name of the library. And I'm going to add printing connected rooms for so just above every connected room, I'm going to add that I'm printing the connected rooms for them. So I strongly recommend adding notes into your tester case and making sure that your test cases print out very clearly. And it might seem like a bit of extra work, but as you add more cases, it's just going to get more and more confusing if you haven't done this. So in this particular case, because I'm just changing the rooms and then resetting them up, I don't remember where I copied to here. I'm just going to copy and paste. But what you'll see is that if you add in all your test cases, it becomes a lot easier to understand what's happening when you look at the actual results of your code than if you were to just build the test cases and have to try and remember what you had done previously. So here it's very clear. Printing connected rooms for study is blank. Printed connected rooms for ballroom is blank. Printed connected rooms for library, study, and ballroom. Printed connected rooms for study now has library, and that's because it falls after this line, right? So this line adds the library as a connection to study. Okay, so in this sense, we're able to, each room keeps track of all the rooms you can travel to from it, so you should be able to start to build a way of moving your player around. If we go into the room class, there's a couple other functions we might want. We might want to be able to get a specific room. So I'm going to write a public room get room function, or I'm going to say get connected room. And our get connected room function is actually going to need to take in the index of the room that you want. Oops, should do int index. And all it's going to do is go into the connected rooms array, array list, connected rooms.get, and it's going to get the element at the past index. That way you could have the user say enter a number. If the user entered 2, you call get connected rooms at 2, and it passes back the value at that index. We are going to need to return this value. Okay, so now we can do get connected rooms. If you wanted to return the number of connected rooms, you could do that. Public int number of connected rooms. Nice and easy function to call. And all we have to do is return the number of elements in the array list. So we're just going to return connected rooms dot size. So at this stage, we're able to go around, add rooms to other rooms, and test a few connections. I am just going to quickly test those functions I just wrote because I don't like writing code and not testing it. So the ones I added were the get number of rooms and the get connected room. So I'm going to system.out.println the first room, which has 2 connected rooms, dot get connected room at index 0. And in my test case, I'm going to add connected room at 0 should be, the first room that we added to the library was the study, so it should be the study. And I'm also going to system.out.println at 1, which should be ballroom. Note, if I call anything other than 0 or 1 at this point in time, I will get an index out of bounds exception. So we're going to be very careful of that. And then the last thing I'm going to do is print out the number of connected rooms should be 2. And instead of calling get connected room, I'm going to call number of connected rooms, which really should be get number of connected rooms. So I'm going to change it here, and I'm going to change it here. That's just a style thing, but when you go to type it and you think it should be get, then that's probably what you're going to do as you write your whole code, so I might as well change it now. So I'm going to print that, let my tests run. Notice it's doing all of the tests all of the time. Sorry, if I make an error, I'm able to check all of the possible conditions. So if I change something that breaks another part of my code, I can easily see it in my test cases. You'll notice once again, we are getting the room pointers, which is actually what I want in the case of get connected room. So I am just going to add a dot get name to each of these so that it prints out a little bit nicer and I can make sure that it works. But I do want to actually pass the pointer to the room for the functionality of my code, so I'm not too worried about that. Should be study, should be ballroom. Everything looks lovely. Okay, so now we're able to get connected rooms at a specific index. We're able to move around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video here because it's gotten a bit long. And then in the next video, what I will do is create the class that actually allows you to keep track of your current room and move throughout the room. So it actually gives you that gameplay feel. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here.